Very again. I thought that I would talk today about a money-making racket, which consists of being recognised as an expert in some field or other and having one's views solicited and then broadcast on the television or published in the newspapers. I'm sure that we all see this every day when a newspaper story quotes Jim Bloggs, an expert in viruses or economics or astronomy or something. We see it on the news and in documentaries too, where some supposed expert is trotted out either to support or savagely denounce this or that narrative which is in the news. This is a subject about which I know a great deal because I am one of those people, and very profitable it is too. Let me explain how it works. Some viewers might have watched a series on the National Geographic Channel called Museum Secrets. Each episode explores some famous museum or other. In the description to this video, I give a link to a clip from the programme about the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich. Goodness, who is this expert who tells us all about the mythology of lightning? Why, it is none other than I, although looking comparatively youthful, it has to be said. It was only 13 years ago, but just look at the ravages which time has wrought upon me since then. I feel a bit like Dorian Gray at the end of Oscar Wilde's famous novel. How did the makers of this programme come to hit upon me as an expert on superstition, you ask? The process involved is fascinating and might encourage viewers to be very careful about trusting any of the so-called experts whom they see pop up in just the same way, shooting their mouths off. 15 years ago, I had a book published called Unearthing London, which was about legends and archaeology connected with London. Now, this is where things get interesting because by some adroit hustling, I got The Guardian to commission a piece by me about legends and archaeological remains in London. At the foot of the piece, I managed to work in a plug for my book. How cool is that? I managed to advertise my own book in a national newspaper and get paid NUJ rates for doing so. I give a link to this piece in the description to this video. I pulled the same stunt with the Daily Express a year later by getting them to commission a piece from me and once again using it as an advertisement for another book of mine. Now, this is how the whole racket works. When a television channel wishes to find an expert, they have two main paths to laying their hands on one. Some topics, they have a ready-made expert on speed dial who is always good for a controversial quotation. It's like that with me and home education, for example, and one or two other topics. I've appeared on television, in newspapers, and on the wireless dozens of times speaking about home education and a couple of other things. At other times, though, if there is a subject they wish for somebody to talk about, they search for somebody on the internet. Can you see what it is yet? When the makers of Museum Secrets wanted an expert to talk about superstitions relating to London, they simply Googled legends, myths, London, superstition, and so on, and thus stumbled across me and my book, and also that piece in The Guardian. Hey presto, they have an expert on superstition. Result. Then they simply contact me via my publisher, and we're in business. Or take the television police drama Grantchester. I'm sure that some of you would have watched Grantchester. It's a period detective drama. When they wanted to dramatise, one of this episodes was about an execution. They wanted somebody who was an authority on capital punishment in Britain to advise and guide them on what they were up to. They did a quick internet search, and lo and behold, came up with a man who has written extensively on the subject, not only for magazines such as True Detective, but is also the author of a book called Execution, A History of Capital Punishment in Britain. They then commissioned me as a consultant on the subject. Same thing when German television company wanted to cover the Grenfell Tower tragedy. They did a quick internet search and found a man who had written a guidebook to Kensington and contacted me via the publisher. It's also how I came to be invited by the BBC to be on the Moral Maze radio programme. Of course, it helps when you have written on many different topics. I give a couple of dozen of my published books in the description to this video, and so you will see that I am contacted often as an expert. I mention all this not to boast, well, not to boast too much, but to warn viewers that 99% of the experts they see on documentaries or quoted in the newspapers have been unearthed in just this way by a quick internet search on Amazon and so on. I need hardly say that there is scope here for an awful lot of dodgy and unreliable information to end up being circulated. I'm referring not so much to my own contributions, obviously, but as I'm sure viewers can see, the system is open to various abuses